All right. So we are live, I guess you could say. We're recording.
Live, but recorded.
Yeah, live but recorded. Okay. So that's the joke to start off the podcast.
Welcome to episode 2, folks. We're still working on the name.
Yeah, or this is all, meanwhile there's, I look like I'm in an insane asylum or something here. Like there's nothing on the wall behind me.
This is the Padded Room podcast with Clark and Jeremy here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're a couple of nutcases. We have no idea what the hell we're talking about. We don't know why you're listening. So, so yeah, we were going to start off with the Russell Westbrook to the Lakers trade.
Big story this week.
Yeah. What was your initial reaction to it? What when you heard? You're like me. I was just kind of like, what? Really? All right. I mean,
yeah, I was surprised. I was legitimately surprised. I didn't, it's one of those things in the NBA. A lot of times trades happen, and we're not sitting there waiting for it. You know what I mean? When James Harden got traded in the middle of last season, everybody knew that was, that it was probably coming. Like it wasn't a shock to anyone that when it actually happened. Nobody knew this was a possibility.
People were talking about it a little bit. Like they were talking about that. They're talking about like DeMar DeRozan. That they talked about Chris Paul, which that's the other thing that's kind of funny about this, because I think at first, because we talked about like how well, they're not going to get Chris Paul, they're not going to pay him that much. But Russell Westbrook's making like the same amount of money. So then it's like I think what was it? Doug Gottlieb was pointing this out when he filled in for Colin Cowherd the other day. He's like, yeah, Chris Paul's got to be sitting there thinking, dude, like you wanted to get Russell Westbrook because LeBron and AD, you guys are buds with Westbrook. Like I'm buds with you, dude. Like what the hell? Like I'm just sitting out there. I just took my team to a championship. Russell Westbrook can't get out of the first round. So yeah, I thought that was kind of
weird. I think
it's
the most shocking thing is that they did it so quickly. Like they didn't wait until free agency, wait and see what else happened, and then they made this move now, which that kind of surprised me. I didn't realize the Lakers were in full on we've got to figure this out now mode, which is a little bit strange.
Yeah, because you got to like think of things in context. Like if Anthony Davis didn't get hurt, at the very least, I think the Lakers get out of the first round and most likely get out of the second round because they would have played Denver, and Denver, they didn't have Jamal Murray, and Phoenix went through them in 4 games. Like they probably would have gotten to the conference finals. And then, if they're playing with Kawhi out, then I don't know. I mean, they potentially could have won that series and been in the finals at the least. So it's like, why are you kind of just dumping it? And, the other thing is that they kind of last season, they seemed to like, they got rid of Dwight Howard, they got rid of JaVale McGee, they gave up all that size, which was part of the reason they were so good the year they won the championship in the bubble. So I don't know, so now it's like, okay, you've got LeBron who's old, and he's not the player, he's not defensively, he's not the player he was. He's offensively, he's a shooter, he can still get to the basket, from time to time. He has to kind of pick his spots. And then you got Westbrook, who's not a very good shooter, like at all, who's I mean, the other thing is Westbrook is totally out of control. Like there's no, like he constantly makes the wrong decisions. And I'm just like, how long is that going to work with LeBron? Like in a big game where Russell Westbrook just does something stupid, like I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. So my initial take was I was surprised. Initially, my initial reaction is, well, I don't know how that's going to work, but I also want to leave room because we don't know what the rest of the roster is yet. I mean, they don't really have anybody under contract at the moment. Now, I'm not saying they're going to get but they're not going to get some great player. But the other thing you got to remember is they just spent, was it $44 million, 45 or something, or 42? I don't know how much on Westbrook. Yep.
So, okay, well now you're, all right, you don't have a lot left, so it's, they're probably doing what they would have been doing anyway to fill out the rest of the roster, which is just kind of grabbing whoever's there and getting some veterans and getting some veteran minimum contracts and stuff. or like mid-level exceptions or something. But it's just kind of like, like last year they weren't a very good 3-point shooting team, and now you get a bad shooter. I'm trying to.
Right. Yeah, I think the most fascinating thing, and I've thought about it a little bit, kind of going back and forth, and kind of like, wow, I just, it doesn't make sense. But I can also see a world where this works
All
because
right, explain that to
pretty
me because
much,
I don't see it.
well, look, every guy who plays with LeBron, they fall in line. Even guys who were difficult to play with, like Kyrie Irving or J.R. Smith, or
All right, maybe.
take your pick. So I can see, like, I'm 70-30 on this not working. That's where I'm at. I think there's and by working I mean, do they win the championship or come damn close? So I think there's I think it's hard, because I don't know. Again, I don't know how Westbrook is going to play with LeBron out there. I think the idea of having him in the regular season is great because then LeBron doesn't have to kill himself in the regular season, and he can just let Westbrook do
Right.
what he does, which
That makes
Westbrook can
sense. That's
win.
fine.
Westbrook can win games, but so we'll see. Is Westbrook going to be, you know what? No, I'm doing this. Get out of the way, LeBron, or is he going to be like, no, it's okay. You run the offense. Because the reason I think it could work is because LeBron has no problem giving up the ball. So if Westbrook just moves, he'll get the ball in good spots where he can do damage. And
All right, maybe.
LeBron is smart enough to figure out the best way to do this. Um, but
Yeah,
they do need shooting around these guys. They can't just throw out a
yeah,
bunch of, so I think, I could see, I think my general watching basketball my whole life, my general mentality is this is probably not a good idea. But I could also
yeah. I
see
just feel
us,
like this is one of those things where it's like late in your career, you try to do something, and it's just not gonna work.
but I could
Which
also see a scenario where they have LeBron and Davis and they just steamroll everybody. Like, I mean, that's the bottom line.
right.
We're
That's
all
fair.
we're all going nuts about, well, what's Westbrook going to do? Blah blah blah. The bottom line is, if they have the two best players, then it really doesn't matter. Everything Russell Westbrook does is gravy.
That's fair. Yeah.
So I'm not. I wouldn't count. I certainly wouldn't count them out, and I would think they're going to have a great chance because who else in the West has three players like this?
Yeah, that's fair. That's
So
fair.
so
I,
in general, I agree with you. Like, my instinct is to go, that's not. This isn't going to cut it. Um,
for instance, like with Brooklyn works because okay, James Harden can play the point guard, right? And Durant, Durant does what he does. I mean, you saw it in Golden State. Like he can move without the ball or whatever, and you can just give him the ball and he can kind of get what he needs. And Kyrie Irving, like he's a shooting guard too, so it kind of it works. And Harden gets his, but he'll also distribute the ball. Like okay, I see it, but like LeBron and then Westbrook, they play with the ball in their hands. That's kind of what that's what, so when people are like, oh, LeBron will play off the ball, I'm like, yeah, I can see that a little bit. But I mean, like, if you're telling me in like a huge game, it's going to be like, here, Westbrook, take the ball, make the decision. Like, some people are saying that doesn't sound right to me. That doesn't sound like something LeBron's going to do.
right. So
So
is Westbrook going to fall in line with what LeBron wants because it's LeBron's team? So is that's the question? Is, like, Westbrook just going to go, screw you, I'm doing my own thing? So that's the answer. That's the answer we don't know. If there's anybody, like, okay, yes, I know Westbrook's done that his whole career, but he's never played with LeBron before. So
that's fair. It seems like when push comes to shove, you are who you are. So that's
right,
kind of what I mean with like LeBron playing without the ball. Yeah, but when push comes to shove, LeBron wants the ball in his hands.
right. So is that
He's
going to
either
work?
distributing or he's attacked. So it's like I don't really, and also it's like you're not going to have Westbrook sitting on the 3-point line because no one respects him
Right.
on the 3-point line. So but again, maybe it'll work. I don't know. I mean, I guess stranger things have happened. I just kind of feel like it's, I feel like they sort of, the last couple of years, maybe they overreacted to stuff. I mean, when they signed Montrezl Harrell a year ago, I'm like, yeah, but he couldn't get on the floor against Denver when he was with the Clippers. Like, why is this such a big move? And then they give up Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee. It's like you had a lot of size, and that's part of the reason that you were so successful in the playoffs. Like, what? I don't understand what you're doing, but you know what? I don't know. It's a year-to-year league. I guess you got to kind of mix things up, or I don't
Yeah,
know.
I also think this is the last shot for LeBron. I think this next season, this is the last shot to win a championship realistically. And so I think they took a swing to try to hit the ball out of the park. And would it have been better if they had just gotten Buddy Healed and maybe kept KCP and then tried to get another shooter? Probably. Would that be
Yeah,
better? It's probably a better fit. Um, you know, so we'll see. But yeah, I think they're swinging for the fences. I think that's what makes it so interesting to me, is that this could be fantastic and work out great and we're all idiots, or this could just dismantle the whole thing. So
or
it's
like I kind of think basically this is going to work in there to get to the finals, win or lose, whatever, or they lose in the second round. Like, I just kind of, and part of that might not even be Westbrook. That may just be Anthony Davis gets hurt again or something,
right.
So
Right. But are we overrating how much Westbrook is going to matter on a team with LeBron and Anthony Davis? Like the amount that
I
what
mean,
he
I
does.
guess, but when you're paying a guy $44 million a year, like,
Well, but they didn't do
he's,
this. They didn't do this for the economics. They did it because they want to win one more time.
yeah, that's fair.
So
Yeah,
you kind of have to throw the contracts out. And the reason that it's much easier to get Westbrook than Chris Paul is because it's a trade. So you can get rid of things that would be impeding your salary cap. If Chris Paul is just a free agent, that's much more complicated to do. You'd have to try to work out some kind of sign and trade with Chris
oh, I
Paul.
get it. Okay, that's fair.
So
That makes sense.
that's part of the reason why it's just more complicated. I'm not saying it can't be done. It's just more difficult with Chris Paul, and
Yeah,
Chris Paul's going to go through negotiations with. But the bigger issue to me is what confuses me the most about this trade is why does Washington want the Lakers poo-poo platter? What the hell?
yeah,
What is Washington do? Like,
yeah. Those are spare parts.
I'm
Yeah,
confused by what they're doing here. I understand they used the Lakers pick to trade for Aaron Holiday, which is great. He's a good player. But what Bradley Beal's gonna want to stay now because they're gonna have cap space? Like, I'm just it's kind of confusing to me. Like, we're setting up this team, so Harrell's a expiring contract and KCP's an expiring, so they're just basically trade fodder. Like they're I feel like Washington's looking for another move. So I'm just confused why anybody would want, like, okay, you want to get off Russell Westbrook's contract, even though it's a year and an option. It's not an eternity.
yeah,
So you want to get off his contract, okay, but that's what you take. I don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah,
To me, it's the only way the Lakers are going to get a player that good. Unless
yeah,
you're one of these people that thinks they're getting Damian Lillard. I don't. But unless you think they're getting Damian Lillard, then
yeah.
okay,
No, I
that's
doubt it.
different. But this is the only way they're going to get a player this good. Nobody's giving. I mean, look at what they gave up. You're not getting a great player for this package. Ben Simmons is probably going to get more than this package the Lakers gave is.
Yeah,
Because the Wizards did it to get cap space.
yeah. Well, think that I think the other thing, like I was reading, I think it was on The Ringer. Someone was writing about this, and they were saying that basically, when Westbrook's on your team, he pulls everybody into his orbit, and it just kind of ruins things because it's all, well, what's Westbrook doing, And they were saying that basically that's what happened in Oklahoma City. They tried to have him like play off the ball more in Houston, and that didn't work. And then, he was in Washington last year, and, they weren't, I mean, that team's not very good anyway, but, they weren't very good. And so basically it's like, well, the risk is that you bring him in, and then it's just going to sort of pull a bunch of stuff toward the way that he's playing, I guess, and that's going to kind of ruin things. Which, I mean, I think that's fair because one of the kind of the things that people don't, I guess. So I guess there's only two. There's only two other points that I want to make with this. So one was, you know, for everybody who goes nuts about Russell Westbrook averaging a triple double like 3 years or 4 years or whatever the hell it is. Okay, go on YouTube and search for clips of games where Westbrook's hunting for triple doubles. It's one thing to get a triple double in the flow of the game. That's not what Russell Westbrook did. He was hunting triple doubles.
Right.
There's video of Durant and Steph Curry sitting on the bench laughing their asses off as Westbrook is dribbling down the floor and like foregoing driving to the basket or taking a shot and waiting for someone else to get open so he can pass them the ball so they'll shoot and they'll score. And if he passed you the ball and you didn't shoot, he screamed at you because he needed the assist because he already had the points, and then there's other video of him stealing rebounds from teammates. And it's like, that's why when everyone was going nuts about that, I just was kind of like really turned off. I'm like, you realize he was just hunting for that stuff. Like if LeBron gets a triple double, it's way more impressive to me because he's doing it in the flow of the game. So there was that point, and the other point was what Colin Cowherd was saying on his podcast was he's thinking that they decided to do this because LeBron wants to bring in someone like Westbrook who works really, really hard and is really committed. So it'll rub off on Anthony Davis. So Anthony Davis will be more committed in the offseason or something, and that'll prevent him from getting injured. I don't know. To me, that seems like it's sort of kind of this outlandish theory that's not really, like he's saying like, oh, LeBron's really unhappy with Anthony Davis. I think he's unhappy that he got injured, but you also have to understand that like NBA players don't look at things the way you and I do or regular people do. Like they walk around thinking, I'm hot shit. I can do whatever the hell I want. And, I want this guy here because this is going to work, as if they know exactly how to construct a team. And I don't necessarily think I don't think that's the best thing, but athletes think differently than you and I do. So,
well, and LeBron as the GM has failed in a few circumstances.
yeah.
And so, obviously there's no way LeBron did not sign off on this before they did it.
Oh yeah, well, that's the reporting is that Westbrook has a house that's like a few miles away from LeBron in Southern California, and Westbrook, LeBron, and AD met and were like, let's give this one more go and try to win a championship. So yeah, this was all like they wanted this to happen and whatever else. So okay,
and I mean, again, I try to simplify these things. Just say it out loud. Westbrook is your third best player.
That's fair.
It's a pretty darn good team. So, I mean, I know we're all upset about this, but I mean, Washington was not going to make the playoffs if Westbrook wasn't on the team. So, I mean, we can bang on them, but, now did they really make them? I mean, they made the 10th or whatever seed, but they wouldn't have even gotten that without Russell Westbrook. So,
yeah, that's fair.
So,
yeah, we tend to overreact to these things. It's like and focus on what it's kind of like with Giannis. Like we focus on what players can't do, and it's like, yeah, but look at what he can do. So, for instance, like Westbrook can play defense. He can drive to the basket. He's good in transition. Like, okay,
right.
I mean, he did. Look, I can say he hunted for triple doubles all day long, but I mean, he may have been hunting for those last 3 assists and those last couple rebounds. Like, okay, like he still did the other stuff to get the, so. Yeah,
Look, he still produces. No matter what happens, he's going to produce. This isn't like Ben Simmons where he's not going to shoot the ball. This isn't So I think in general, aggressiveness is a good thing. But we'll see. This is going to be fascinating. This is the last thing I thought the Lakers would do. The last move I thought that I saw coming. Right. So anyway, so what do you want to do next? Do you want to talk about trade scenarios?
If you want to talk about the draft, oh yeah, we can talk about the other trades and then the draft a little bit. I didn't pay too much attention to the NBA draft. I'm not as big into it, but
full disclaimer here, people. If you want real draft coverage, there's a million places you can go. Okay, we're not NBA draft. We're not NBA draft experts. I saw, I know a little bit about some of these guys. I just find some things interesting. So that's what
Well,
we're
now
going to
it's
talk
getting
about.
even more difficult because some of them play in college for 1 year and some of them go to the G League, and it's like, okay, yeah, who the hell saw them play? Like,
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as trades, I mean, like, well, the Simmons one is something that actually could happen, but
What did you
uh,
think about the Golden State story of them turning down that trade offer?
I mean, yeah, why the hell do you want? What are you going to do with Simmons? Like, I mean, that's what I don't understand. Like, when people analyze the Warriors, it's like, look, if Steph Curry is going to be like the best player, you need to surround him with the right players to make up for his deficiencies. So if you got Wiggins like shooting threes and playing defense, okay. And then Klay Thompson comes back, he's on the perimeter, he shoots, he plays defense. Okay. Like, and then you have Draymond making plays. I'm like, what? Okay, that also, you need to be able to have space. So what are you going to put Draymond and Simmons on the floor at the same time? Like, that's going to screw up all your spacing. Like, that team is based on shooting and spacing and moving the ball. Like, what? I don't I don't understand. So
I think the offer reportedly that Golden State turned down was the Warriors would give the 7th pick in this draft, the 14th pick, Wiggins and James Wiseman for Ben
yeah.
Simmons, and Golden State turned it down. And I've been on
Well, from what I read the thing from the someone from the Philadelphia Inquirer said that Golden State turned it down like immediately.
oh wow.
Like, there was no like thinking or whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, which to me says, that was, I was like, when I was thinking about this before, I just thought it was ridiculous. And I'm like, yeah, it is ridiculous because Golden State thought it was ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like, so.
well, I think there's some gamesmanship going on there, but yeah, I think that it's kind
Yeah,
of.
I mean,
I
yeah,
never bought into it became out immediately when Ben Simmons trade rumors started that Golden State was one of the teams, and it didn't make sense to me because unless you're trading away Draymond Green, how do you play Ben Simmons and Draymond Green together, basketball
yeah.
wise? It doesn't work. Like, so I don't understand. That was the part that confuses me. Is Ben Simmons
And
sound
why would you switch Simmons for Draymond Green?
right?
Granted, Draymond Green's not a very good shooter or whatever, but he'll take a jump shot, and he's
Right.
not gonna give up a layup or a dunk, in crunch time, and he'll probably make the right play because he's been in so many big games.
Right.
So why would you like, you know?
Right. So it never made sense to me. And the fact that they turned it down, I mean, I think because, the reason they turned it down is because if they really want Simmons, that trade will be there 6 months from now.
Yeah,
That won't be a problem. So I think Philadelphia is shopping Ben Simmons, trying to get the best deal, and they're just kind of working through it. I think Daryl Morey's just asking for the moon, and then as this kind of works
yeah,
itself out, he's going to realize, oh, I can't get this, so I'll have to settle for this. I think there is still a good trade market for Ben Simmons. It is not a superstar trade market. And
yeah,
I think that people who think that you're going to get some great player back for him I think it's absolutely insane. I think
yeah,
you'll get a good player or a couple of good players and some draft picks,
yeah,
but I don't believe this nonsense that they're going to get. Now when they came out, well, they wanted a James Harden like package. Well, the package that was traded for James Harden from Brooklyn was not fantastic. It was
yeah.
Karis LeVert, Jared Allen,
Yeah, that's a good
a
point.
bunch of first round picks, and whatever. Like, if Ben Simmons got that, okay, so two kind of average non All Star players and a bunch of draft picks. Like,
Yeah,
to me, that sounds about right. Like, this Buddy Hield thing. I don't know if that Sacramento wants Ben Simmons or not, but that makes sense to me. Ben Simmons for Buddy Hield and maybe a throw in and then some draft picks. I think that's about
yeah.
what your market is.
Well,
So
Philadelphia. To be honest, Philadelphia probably, and this isn't Daryl Morey's fault because he's only been there a year, but Philadelphia probably screwed this up. They probably should have traded him 2 years ago because
right.
they probably could have got. Do you think they could have gotten more for him 2 years ago?
Yeah, but before he signed the extension, but it
Right.
wouldn't be as much
Exactly.
because he's not making as much money. But yeah, you could have gotten more after last year's playoffs than you would
Yeah.
now for sure.
Yeah. Because it's just so. But now it's kind of like. I mean, it's. I'm sorry that the image we have of Ben Simmons passing up that dunk or layup in Game 7 against Atlanta is just very hard to shake. I mean, that just was a really bad look.
Yeah,
So
I think it's
you
one of
know,
those things we'll keep our eye on. I think they have time, so I think I would expect something to happen before the season because I just think if you start the season, like I've heard in a few places, Ben Simmons is selling his house in Philadelphia, so I think it's going to be really hard to bring him in and play the season with Ben Simmons on your team. I just think it's going to be really,
yeah,
especially in Philadelphia. As soon as it starts to go bad, the fans are going to. I mean, it in Philadelphia, it gets bad quickly. Like they may boo him, it may turn into a mess. So
yeah,
if he starts the season, that's going to be a tough sell.
yeah.
Um, so
Well, yeah, I think he'll get moved. It's just it may not happen right away.
right,
So because Daryl Morey, like I said, they have to handle this properly because if you have Embiid and you get some shooting around him and a little playmaking, like you can be, it's the Eastern Conference, you can be really good. So just they got to get this right.
yeah. So we got free agency coming up on August 6th. So it's about 5 days
August
away.
6th. Okay.
So I mean,
That's right.
couple things I'm kind of looking for. I want to see what the Lakers try to do with Dennis Schroeder if they try to sign and trade him somewhere. I want to see
Yeah.
what New Orleans does because they're all in on trying to get a better team at right now.
Yeah.
And there was, I mean, obviously Philly with Simmons. I want to see what happens there. And then I don't know if Dallas. I want to see if Dallas does anything with they're probably going to let Tim Hardaway go, and then
Oh, okay.
Kyle Lowry's out there for Miami, Dallas, a bunch of teams. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see because I read earlier that the Heat they declined the option on Iguodala, and they accepted the option on Dragic. But the rumor
Okay.
is that they're going to use Dragic's contract to try to sign and trade him somewhere
Okay. Oh yeah, I think I heard that too.
because
Okay.
he opted in for another year. So I think they're gonna that may be if the Heat are going to get Kyle Lowry, it will probably involve Dragic going to Toronto.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can see that can help Miami a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I just think Lowry's a better player than Dragic at this point, but it's not like this
Yeah.
isn't an earth-shattering. So it's kind of like the New Orleans has to decide are they going to keep Lonzo Ball or not. I think they're going to. Well, if they don't keep him, they'll match whatever offer and they'll trade him somewhere. Because I think
Yeah.
they're in the Kyle Lowry rumors also. So
Right.
so yeah, that's just kind of interesting stuff. But all right, so NBA draft. I watched it. I listened to some.
Well, who went number one?
So number one to Detroit was Cade Cunningham from Oklahoma. He went to Oklahoma State. He's like
Okay.
a 6'8" point guard type. He's good basketball IQ. Good passer. He can shoot. He's kind of got all the tools, to be. He's kind of like a 5-tool player in baseball. He's got all the
Okay.
intangibles. He's not an incredible athlete, but he's got all the stuff, and so he looks like he's going to be
Yeah.
really interesting. Detroit took Jalen Green, or I'm not sorry, not Detroit. Houston took Jalen Green second. Jalen Green's one of the guys that went to the G League.
Okay.
So what I found, a couple things I found interesting. Golden State taking Kuminga at 7. So Bradley Kuminga he was the other guy in the G League on the G League Ignite. And he's one of those
Yeah.
guys that it's just confusing what Golden State did because you're thinking, okay, they've got to try to win now, and Kuminga's not ready to win now. Like he can't shoot yet, and he's a great athlete. Long, great wingspan. I
Yeah,
think
but how many win now players are there in the NBA draft? I mean, you're getting guys that are like 19 who aren't finished
well,
products yet,
not
right?
necessarily. I don't mean win now, but they can actually help you next season.
Okay.
Kuminga's a project. He's not ready to help them next season. But I think when I saw that, I think what they're trying to do is fill that Andre Iguodala role. Like the guy,
Yeah.
and as a rookie, he'll be able to defend. He'll be able to play
Okay.
defense, and he's super athletic. He'll be unbelievable in transition. But I'm just
Okay.
surprised that they didn't go with somebody like Franz Wagner or someone like that who can already shoot it. He's 6'9", 220. Like, he can do all the, typical basketball fundamental stuff. So and they drafted another guy at 14 who's another kind of a project, kind of a, athletic
Yeah.
guy, Moses Moody, he can shoot it better. So that's good. But I don't think either one of those guys is going to be in, like, getting a whole bunch of minutes in their rotation if they make the playoffs. I think Kuminga, honestly, I think Kuminga will be playing for their G League team next season. So
Right.
I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, they could, obviously, this is all moot, right? They could trade any of those guys, and they have guys that people would want, right? Like if they wanted to try to get Siakam from Toronto would love to have Kuminga and the other guy. So
Oh, okay.
I thought it was it's
So maybe
kind
that's
of
what they're doing.
right. I mean, I think they just took the best player available. They just didn't worry about fit. They just, like, you know what, we're taking great athletes that we think we can develop, which is just kind of weird because they're trying to win the title this year. So it's just kind of strange. Now, I
Yeah.
think what Golden State's doing is they're just setting this all up, and then they'll see what happens. If the right trade comes along, then they'll snatch it. I just think they're not in a
Yeah.
rush. They're not in a rush to change anything, do anything, because you know what? The bottom line is they're going to win a lot of games this season.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, they're the reason that they got Kevin Durant, what was it, 5 years ago or whatever, was because they realized they'd kind of reached the ceiling on what they could do without having like a dynamic, uh, scorer who could just do whatever the hell because Steph can, he can get his shot off and whatever else, and he'll drive to the basket a little bit, but it's not the same as having a guy like Kevin Durant. So I think that's kind of what the Warriors have been missing the last, well, in addition to Klay Thompson, but that's what they've been missing, because it's just there's only so much you can create with ball movement and
Yeah, and from
shooting.
what I saw from Golden State in the play-in games, from what I saw from their other guys, Wiggins and Toscano Anderson and Jordan Poole, like, I think they're okay with their roster. They have
Yes.
bench guys that they can use. So I don't think Golden State was worried about it. And you're right. There's nobody that you're going to get with the 7th and 14th pick that's going to
Yeah.
dramatically change your franchise. So they just took the best player available, which, saying it out loud, it makes sense. I was just in the moment, I was just kind of like, why are they? That's just kind of
Yeah.
strange.
Why are you? Yeah.
It's kind of,
Yeah.
kind of strange. And
So
most of those teams, it doesn't matter because they're mostly bad teams. Golden State was the
yeah.
only semi good team that had a pick, that might be any kind of reasonable player. So, um,
Right.
we'll see what happens. But I found that that interesting. And
Yeah.
Oklahoma City is just stocking up on unique guys. Oklahoma City drafted a 6'8" guy from Australia that people are. It's one of those hit or miss guys. He might be awesome, he might not. And then Oklahoma City
Yeah.
they traded down and got more picks. So it's just kind of it's kind of funny. Like if you literally want to get rid of anybody, all you have to do is trade them and in a first round pick to Oklahoma City. They'll take them. It's so crazy. The Kemba Walker trade, that's basically what they're doing. They're just dumping people. Oh, we'll take them. Oklahoma City will take anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I found that interesting, but we'll see. I mean, obviously, I think probably one or two of these guys that were drafted in the top 5 will probably be, fantastic. But overall, it's one of those. There's a lot of good, solid players, but there wasn't like a dramatic. There's no Zion. There's no Anthony Davis. There's no LeBron in this draft. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so anyway, would you want to go to next?
You want to go to college football?
Yeah. So college football,
Everything going on in
wild
college football?
west. People changing conferences. So it looks like Texas
Yeah.
and Oklahoma in the SEC is done, right?
I mean, at this point, yeah, because they had Texas and Oklahoma had to reach out to them and then the SEC had to vote on it, and it was a unanimous vote. They voted to include them, but they're still going to be in the Big 12. At this point, they're still going to be in the Big 12 till 2025 because that's when their TV contract runs out. So, yeah, and if they want to get out of it, they got to spend like 80 million, I don't know, 75, 80 million.
Yeah, but I think they'll do that.
Well, I guess, but I think
you want to get into the SEC before the 12-team playoff starts.
Yeah. I mean, well, the only other thing is like that Bob Bowlesby who's the head of the Big 12 sued when he filed a lawsuit against the SEC, like a cease and desist or something
against ESPN.
Yeah, because he's pissed off because that he feels like Texas and Oklahoma was colluding basically with ESPN to leave the Big 12 and go to the SEC, and Texas and Oklahoma knew they were going to do this, and then they were still acting like we're part of the Big 12, and they're going to conference meetings and all that stuff, which is a conference meeting you're discussing information that's privileged to other people in the conference. So, and then it kind of is. Doug Gottlieb filled in for Colin Cowherd on Friday, and he was talking about this. And correct me if I'm wrong, Gottlieb played college basketball at Oklahoma State, right?
Correct.
Okay. So now again, I think he made some valid points that may play. The fact that he went to Oklahoma State may play a part in this, because he was saying that, this is a joke. This is ridiculous that you're just bolting the Big 12 and you're leaving behind. Like, you don't even tell Oklahoma State this. You guys have been rivals, forever, and you're just, sort of dumping them there, and then they got to figure out where the hell they're going to go. Right. So, because once Texas and Oklahoma leave, I forget who, some other football coach or AD in the Big 12 said, without Texas and Oklahoma, there is no Big 12, because those are the two biggest. No offense to TCU and Baylor and Texas Tech and the other schools in there, but they're not driving they haven't been driving the bus of the Big 12. I mean, it's Texas and Oklahoma. So
what are you in on them, just in general, are you in on these big teams moving around, or do you think this is something that is going to cause a problem for college football?
I can see this both. Well, put it this way. This is the way things are going, and it's going to continue like this. Everyone's chasing money now. That's more. And Kirk Herbstreit said this. Gottlieb said this. I was listening to Ryan Russillo. He was saying this. Well, Herbstreit and Gottlieb were kind of saying a similar thing. Russillo was kind of just saying something slightly different, but it's basically that nobody cares about tradition or rivalries or geographic area, where you are geographically in the country. Right. Nobody cares about that anymore. All they care about is making money, and there's tons of money to be made. So, and I'm not saying I'm against people making money, but I think that there's going to come a point where people realize, there's certain things that have made college football unique from the other sports, from professional sports particularly, but just other kinds of sports, is there's rivalries in the NFL, but it is not the same as like the rivalry between Alabama and Auburn, or Michigan, Ohio State, or Florida State, or Oklahoma, Texas, or Texas A&M. They played for like 100 years until Texas A&M left and went to the SEC.
Right.
So, and I think Texas was, I from what I've heard, Texas at the time, Texas was pissed off about A&M going to the SEC. So I think I'm actually, not to sound like an old person, but I think I'm kind of in that camp where I think people now are starting to say, hey, I don't think this is good. You're kind of throwing away tradition and rivalries and all this other stuff just to chase money. And I think over time, more and more people are going to realize we gave this stuff up, because it's not just rivalries with college football that make it unique. The way that they've over the years decided a champion has been totally different from basically every other sport. until they got the 14 playoff, and then it'll eventually go to the 12-team playoff. So all the arguing over who's the best team, all these rivalries, the fact that the regular season, every game, it's every game still matters now, but I think it's mattering less and less. And then once you go to the 12-team playoff, it's really not going to matter as much. It'll still matter, but it's not going to be the same, And then a point that Ryan Russillo made, which I thought was brilliant, was he liked how you had well, the Big 12, they don't play as much defense. It's just crazy offense, right? And then you got the Pac-12, they're kind of a certain way, and they're viewed as soft by like the SEC, for instance, and then you got the Big 10, and then you have the SEC. There's kind of a certain way that they play, or a certain kind of I don't even know what the word, like zeitgeist, I guess, with the way their whole conference is, the way that conference is. And then there's a certain way that the Big 10 is, there's a certain way the Big 12 is, there's a certain way that the Pac-12 is, or it used to be the Pac-10, whatever, and we're kind of just throwing all that away. And I think that it's going to make it's going to make rivalries matter less. And it's going to, having Texas and Oklahoma in the same conference as the SEC, like, okay, well, you're not the big. The Big 12 is probably just going to go away. That's not even going to be there anymore.
Right.
And it's, again, I'm not against making money, but I just think I think they're throwing away some stuff that kind of made college football unique. And I think we're going to reach a point where a lot of people are like, what, we kind of screwed this up because it doesn't, things aren't we're going to make this thing more like the NFL. And not that there's anything wrong. The NFL makes tons of money, but it's just the pageantry around college football has always been something that made it unique compared to everything else. And it's, some of it, it's not going to completely go away. That'll still be there, but I just think it's not going to matter.
Yeah. So, I agree with you. It does take away some of the tradition. My general rule with college football is I just want better games. I'm tired of watching these major conference teams play directional schools and beat them by 40, for the first 2 or 3 games of the season. I think they need to, this is why college football needs some kind of commissioner or better governing body who has the best interest of the sport in mind. Because, you want to move conferences, fine. But if nobody, if Alabama doesn't play Oklahoma every year, then what's the point? If we're not going to get, as a television viewer, because let's face it, that's what we all are when it comes to college football. If you're not going to give me the best I can get, then I don't, so yes, college football is unique from other sports, but the one thing they should be more, it would be nice if college football was more like other sports in that we find out who the best plays the best, and that doesn't always happen in college football. But but you're right. I don't think this is a gateway for that to happen. I don't think Texas Oklahoma means we're going to get better games.
Yeah.
In a 12-team playoff, we're going to get more games. Are we going to get better games? I don't know. That's kind of my question. And I think, the Big 12, I think it'll probably just get split up and they'll go to other schools. Like, the Big 10 is apparently going to try to get USC. So a lot of this kind of stuff is going to keep happening.
This is the way things are going. And I'm not so we can talk, but it's like 2 separate conversations. We can have a conversation about where things are headed, and that's where things are headed. And then we can have a conversation about, do you like this? Is this good? Right. And I think on the whole, a lot of this probably isn't, necessarily for the better. When people talk about, college football will become like the NFL. Okay, we
it's
need
never going to be like.
No, I know. But it's like we need another NFL. It's kind of like there's a, with different sports and different leagues, like it's kind of like, well, I don't want this to be exactly like that other thing. You kind of want some differences and some clashing styles and stuff. But I agree with you about having more good games. That's absolutely true. And maybe one good thing about this will be that eventually, because of the name, image, likeness thing, maybe that opens the floodgates to athletes getting more money, because if you're going to go to a 12-team playoff and you're going to have schools playing 14, 15, 16, 17 games a year, like you need to start paying, and maybe you pay them after they graduate or something,
Well,
but you need to start paying them.
And that's why this realignment stuff and teams moving around is going to happen even more often, because the schools are going to need more money. They're going to need more money. If they have to start paying the athletes, they're going to be trying to make more money. If they have to, the athletes are going to make money on their own. The schools are going to try to get, they're going to try to get.
That's why maybe we need to like have, like I mean, maybe it won't be Power 5 if you get rid of the Big 12. Maybe have like a Power 4 conference thing where they just, as the NCAA becomes more and more irrelevant, like those, the SEC, the Big 10, the Pac-12, and
the
ACC, like they just sort of break off and they literally do their own thing. Like they're sort of like,
aren't they basically doing that now?
Kind of, but I mean, just really doing their own thing. Like we're going to set our own rules and we're going to kind of do whatever. And then the rest of the conferences, you guys go do what you're going to do. You guys have, and that's the other thing. You guys have an NCAA football champion, because right now it's not an NCAA football champion. It's it's a college football playoff champion, right? So let's just acknowledge what we really already know, that those 4 conferences are basically playing at a different level than pretty much everybody else. So let's separate the 2 out, and then those other schools, you can have your own national championship, and then you can sell that to recruits and not feel like you're getting screwed out of, what those other schools are doing.
Well, but they're going to get in the playoff now. So
that's fair.
You know what I mean? It doesn't really, and especially if you go from 5, it's so the proposal that I think is going to be put in play is the 6 highest ranked conference champions are going to get in. Well, if you get rid of the Big 12, now 2 smaller conferences can get their champion in.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
So it's, I think this is going to be, at minimum, it's going to be interesting. Is it going to be better? Well, talk to me 3 or 4 years from now, and I'll tell you if it's better or not.
Yeah. I mean, I think what was the other point? I had a few other points to make about this. I mean, what you were saying. I mean, they kind of have to expand. I mean, because at this point for better or worse, we've made everything about the end of the season. Whereas it used to be, I mean, the national championship was really important, but there was other stuff along the way. It's like, well, these rivalry games or winning the Rose Bowl or, whatever, there were these other kind of guideposts you had that you could sort of mark your season off, where it was like,
if you're in
the big, like if you're like, it used to be that if you were in the Big 10, you beat your rival, you go to the Rose Bowl, win or lose, that's a really good year, and if you win the Rose Bowl, that's even better, National championship's kind of like, oh yeah, if we did that, that would be like, the most unbelievable year ever. But you still had other stuff where you could say this is a good year. We've made everything about the end of the year, so now it's kind of like, that if you're going to make everything about the end of the year, then you have to expand the playoff, and you got to give these schools something to sell people on, because otherwise it's just going to be like, well, why am I going to go to this smaller school? I need to go to this other school, because that's the only way I have a chance at, playing in the national championship game. So
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so we'll see how this goes. It's going to be, going to be very, very interesting. Texas, Oklahoma, and the SEC. Boy, I never thought, at no point did I ever think that was going to happen. And we're still going to call it the Southeastern Conference, which is just, that's
the other thing that's kind of ridiculous. Yeah. Like geography doesn't matter at all. I'm just like, really? Like, I mean, that reminds me of the NFC West used to be the 49ers, the
New Orleans, Atlanta.
Who was the other team?
New Orleans, Atlanta.
And what? The 49ers and who else?
And the Rams.
The Rams, that's right. Okay. Yeah. And the Rams used to be in Los Angeles. So that those 2 at least made sense. But then it was, you had to fly across the country to play the other 2 teams. Like that, it's just like, and I mean, they still don't really have that totally
Well,
fix. I mean,
and the Big Ten has 14 teams or whatever it is, and the Pac-12 has 14. Like, it's so it's very strange the way that this works. It's like I mean, you said losing its uniqueness. I mean, it's always going to be unique to a certain extent. It may not have,
that's fair. Yeah, I
it may
still
not have.
think they're losing some of it, but yeah, there still will be things about it that is like, yeah, this is college football. I mean, the pageantry and stuff is not really gonna. It's gonna. I don't think that's still going to change as much because some of these teams are in like college towns and that's what they get up for. So like in Gainesville, there's no NFL teams in Gainesville, so that they get up for these games.
Yep.
Same thing with like Tallahassee or you know, where's Tuscaloosa or I mean LSU. Maybe LSU is a little different, but they're still it's still that kind of drives everything for the for 6 months out of the year. So that won't change too much. I just think I just feel like you're going to be watching some of these games thinking it doesn't matter as much because if you have a 12 team playoff or even more, which I think it'll probably expand beyond 12 teams, it's just kind of like, all right, so they're playing this game to get the 4 seed and who really cares? Like, even if they have like a bye week, I don't know how they're doing this, but even if you have a bye week, it's kind of like, all right.
Yeah, they're losing the regular season mattering. And if they don't give us good games, well, then they're really kind of screwing the fans. If they're not going to give us good games and the games that they give us aren't going to matter as much, boy, that really just,
Yeah,
it
kind of kills things.
The bottom line is it won't change anything. The TV ratings will still be good. The amount of money for the TV deals will still go up. So it's kind of crazy.
No, the playoff itself will be great.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of, I don't watch college basketball, but I mean, not that it was anybody else, but they still like the tournament. So,
Right. All right. So what else do we want to go at?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of what else, like what do you think's next for like beyond? So the name, image, likeness thing, I mean, you've already seen players making a ton of money on that. Like, how far away do you think, we are from players getting, like what I think, and people have talked about this, what I think they need to do is say you get, some set amount of money, I don't know, 20 grand, 30 grand, or maybe just whatever the school can afford to do. Like, here's this amount of money. If you graduate, you get this. At the once you graduate, you get this amount. Not that we're paying players every week or they're getting game checks or anything, but I feel like that would be kind of the way to comp, because if they're going to be playing this many games, then you got to pay them on some level, not just the name, image, likeness thing, because a lot of guys aren't going to be able to get that, because there's only so many players who people are going to give a shit about. So
yeah, no, I agree. The problem is for colleges, and we've talked about this, ad nauseum, not on this podcast, but the people that are going to be hurt if they have to pay the players are the administration of the school. The administration of the school who make money that make exorbitant amounts of money. That they're going to be the ones that are hurt. So the only way that they're going to pay the players is if the legal system forces them to.
That's fair, but hopefully this is part of a maybe the one good thing. Again, I'm railing against this thing, saying you're giving up tradition, you're giving up all this other stuff, and maybe the one good thing about this is that there's finally some sort of reckoning about how kind of ridiculous funding of universities has gotten. Well, not funding of universities, how ridiculous like the amount of money they're paying some of these administrators has gotten, and also how some of these schools probably shouldn't be playing football because they literally can't afford it. There's only so many there's like a handful of schools that make money playing college football, like Texas and Michigan and Ohio State and I don't know, Oklahoma and Bama and maybe a few others. Like that's like it. So some of these other schools, that's why these games started where they play these big schools, and the big schools would pay them money, basically paying them to win a game.
Right.
So maybe that kind of stuff will stop.
Yeah, I think
it probably should, because it's ridiculous anyway.
I think it's going that direction and it's going to happen. I just don't think it's going to happen right away.
Yeah,
Our legal system doesn't work as efficiently as most of us would
yeah,
like.
yeah. So, I mean, but I think it might be easier to pay some of the players if you didn't have some of these administrators doing God knows what at these universities getting paid these huge
Listen,
salaries. Like it's kind of ridiculous.
I totally agree with Jay Billis on this. If you force the colleges to do it, they'll figure it out.
Yeah,
They will
yeah,
figure it out. Now it may cause them to do other things like going to different conferences and doing all kinds of other things to make money. But if you force them to pay the players, they'll do it. There may be other there'll be other drawbacks to it, but they'll do it.
yeah. Well, and again, like I want to be clear, like I'm not like if you play in Division 2 or Division 3, you really are a student athlete. And if you play in you know, the I don't know, the bottom part of division, well, it's not even what is it, FBS now. They're even call it Division 1, whatever. Um, if you're in like the bottom part of the football of the FBS football bowl subdivision, whatever, um, then you're still kind of a student athlete because odds are you probably not going to go to the next level and play football. And you need to graduate and get a degree because you're not going to be doing this after college. So we're only really talking about the upper echelon where these players are, getting all this exposure and these schools make, millions and billions of dollars. Like we're only really talking about them. We're not talking about, the other, a lot of these other schools they're more student athletes.
Right.
Like the term student athlete is not necessarily all BS. It just is
Oh,
when you're applying it to these players that play at the top echelon of the thing. It's like, not really. They're going there to try to get to the NFL. So
yeah, I'm all for paying the players. I have just to put it out there, I have no problem with that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's what should happen. I think players' rights should be, um, put at the forefront, and
yeah,
they should be taken care of.
yeah. I think the only other point that I was going to make was like, I think some people like one of the things coming out of this with Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC was people are complaining like, oh, well, the rich are getting richer, and this is people are just going to give more attention to the SEC. And I'm just like, guys, people give attention to the SEC because they're better. Like I don't like they because the thing is they care more for rightly or wrongly. They care way more than like the Pac-12 or even a lot of the schools in the ACC. Like they
Yep.
just it is like we got to win football. I mean, even at freaking I don't know Arkansas or Ole Miss, they're like we need to win football games. Like they just care more. That's why like the Pac-12. There's other schools like that, especially like the Pac-12 and the ACC, well, in the Big Ten. A lot of those schools they're more like we have certain academic standards and we're not sacrificing those. And it's like
Right.
okay, that's fine, that's great, good for you. Do what you want to do. But it's just compared to the SEC just they care more and they put more money into it and they put more time into it and they're just they're trying to win football games.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's maybe the one major issue that we got to pay attention to is the SEC just pulling away from college football. That because it's so much better than everybody else. That is it just there's only a couple of teams that are in other conferences that can even compete. It's Ohio
Well,
State, Clemson, and
and
that's
you know what? To be fair, like maybe, but also you can kind of before you criticize the people who are winning stuff, you got to look at what's going on with the teams that aren't doing well enough. Like the Pac-12, like it just feels like they've just been in kind of disarray for a while. Like who's the best coach in that conference? Who's the coach? Who's the program where you look like, oh well, they're getting the best recruits and they're going to be like same thing with like the Big Ten. Like Ohio State's done really well, and they've been in the playoff a bunch of times. Why? Because well they had Urban Meyer and they're just they're really trying to win. They're
right.
really committed to it. So if you're really committed to it, you can maybe be there. But maybe some of these other schools aren't as committed as the SEC is. rightly or wrongly. I'm not making a value judgment, but it's just kind of, you know.
All right. So you got anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I think that's kind of it. I didn't really, maybe there is, but I don't know. I can't really think of it. That kind of covers everything, you know.
Yeah, so I think free agency starts I think on Friday for the NBA. So we'll probably try to get on at some point to review, what we
Oh, that's right. Okay.
what we think
Yeah, because
about
that's
who
usually like
signed.
a 24-hour, uh free
Frenzy.
for all. Yeah, 24-hour frenzy. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get on and do some free agency review of what we like, what we didn't like.
Right.
Um, I think Westbrook trade is going to be controversial. But we'll see what happens. Maybe next week we talk and Ben Simmons or Damian Lillard or somebody else has been traded. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always interesting. Even though it's the NBA season is August, September, October, like 3 months away.
Yeah, training camp will be in October. So we're 2 months.
That's what we do. We talk about stuff that's 3 or 4 months away, which we have no idea what's really going to happen. Just speculate because it's fun.
Right. It's one of the best things we have in sports. The NBA offseason is fantastic. Oh. Should we talk about Aaron Rodgers?
Oh yeah, you need to talk about Aaron
Yes,
Rodgers.
we almost left that out.
I didn't really. Yeah, I didn't.
Okay. So
I didn't really care that I wasn't paying attention because I was just like, nothing's going on here. But
so the media has been all right.
Well, so let's go back because so this basically, the Packers. I guess the background is Aaron Rodgers has been there for. Was he drafted in 2005?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's been there for 16 years. He didn't play for the first 3 years because they had Brett Favre there. So he wins a Super Bowl. He's won multiple MVPs. He's been to the NFC Championship game now 2 years in a row, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they played the 49ers and then they played last year the Bucks.
Yep.
They lost both games. The 49ers game, they got their asses kicked. Like, we didn't think they were going to win that game. But the Bucks, they could have won that game. They had some chances. So that kind of didn't work out. And then, last year in the draft, they drafted Jordan Love from UCLA, and Aaron Rodgers was like, well, why aren't you drafting like offensive linemen or receivers or something? So he was upset about that. And so then it progressed to this year where I don't even know. There was did he even say anything about wanting to be traded or anything?
Right. So this is the thing. So after the season, right after they lost to the Bucks, he kind of gave a cryptic answer to a question, said something about his future is a beautiful mystery and he doesn't know what's going to happen. And then after that, basically there wasn't a whole lot of there were questions about it, it was up in the air, but there wasn't really a whole lot of things about it. And then the first day of the NFL draft, Adam Schefter and Jay Glazer and the major NFL reporters, they all had a story that Aaron Rodgers was unhappy in Green Bay. And
whatever that means.
Right. So and that Green Bay was talking to San Francisco about trading him. Now, here's the thing with that is I don't really believe any of that because San Francisco was giving out all kinds of misinformation because everybody thought they were going to draft Mac Jones.
Right.
So I don't know how anybody could believe San Francisco saying anything at that point. So that's what's been reported. Who knows if that's true? So my attitude this whole time is the media has been overblowing this because there was not a whole lot to talk about in the summertime.
Yeah.
In the NFL offseason. It's kind of a dead period in sports before the NBA, after the NFL season, before the NBA.
So that's what we do. We speculate.
Right. So everybody got out in front of it. And then Adam Schefter came on the Dan Patrick show and was like, no, I didn't have like nothing directly happened. This is just an accumulation of stuff that I had that I decided to release the night of the draft. So, yes, this is me being skeptical for anybody who doesn't understand sarcasm. So I think the media has completely flown the coop on this. It's a bunch of nonsense. My attitude from the beginning was if he doesn't show up for training camp, let me know. Okay.
Yeah,
First day of training camp.
because he didn't say anything.
Right.
You
Aaron
know, and
Rodgers
it
was not
wasn't,
saying
and
anything.
whatever they were reporting, they weren't reporting that he wanted to be traded.
Right.
Like they were just reporting that he's unhappy, which again, whatever that means. I mean, you know.
And it came out that he might have wanted the general manager fired and whatever. But again, we have no idea if any of that is accurate. Aaron Rodgers spent the summer hanging out with his fiance and going to Hawaii and doing whatever he wanted
And
to do.
hosting Jeopardy and
exactly
whatever.
right. So the first day of training camp was last week, a week ago, I think. And he shows up, no problem. Okay. Then he goes in. It's reported that they restructured his contract. I know everybody's going to say, well, they fixed it. They didn't fix anything. Okay. Here's what happened. Aaron Rodgers has three seasons left. This season, 2 more seasons after that. They voided the 3rd season. Okay. So he can get out of his contract after 2 years. And then they restructured the deal to make the salary cap better for this year and next year. So
so he's under contract this year and next year.
Right.
Okay.
As of now, correct. So basically everybody's going, oh, they worked all this stuff out. They didn't work anything out. All Green Bay did was make their salary cap situation better for this year. And by the way, I heard this reported yesterday. They saved $11 million on the salary cap this year, and they signed Randall Cobb for $10 million.
Yeah.
So that's all they really did. And then basically the story is that, well, he'll play this year, and then if he's still unhappy and wants to leave, then they'll trade him. Now, I personally don't believe any of this is that simple. I think that Green Bay's plan is not to trade Aaron Rodgers. I guarantee you, it is to.
Well, if they were going to, I mean, that's the other thing that some people have been talking about. What does this say about Jordan Love if they're not ready to trade Aaron Rodgers? Like he's not ready, I guess. Okay. Which again, I don't know. I'm not there at training camp watching it, so I don't know.
Right, I get it. And everybody's saying, there's some, I hear the argument out there. Well, I mean, if he's not happy, why don't they just trade him? Okay. You don't replace quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers. Like the idea that they should just trade him is to me patently absurd. Okay. You don't trade when you have the MVP of the NFL. Why would you trade him? Like, he would have to literally sit out and lose money in order for them to even think about trading him. And I don't care how good Jordan Love is. It doesn't matter. He's in his 2nd year. How good could he possibly be? So you're telling me Green Bay is going to tell their fans, you know what? We've got maybe the greatest quarterback of all time on our team, but we're going to go with this young guy that we really believe in. I mean, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
I mean, well, yeah, except for the fact that when Favre, like, there's speculation that Green Bay basically not made Favre, but they kind of did that. They sort of did that with Brett Favre. I mean, I guess they felt Aaron Rodgers was ready to go and they wanted to move on, and then Brett Favre retired and then came back.
Well, it's a little different. Favre was saying he was going back and forth between retiring and not retiring for 3 years. So that's number one. Number two, they didn't trade up to get Aaron Rodgers. He fell into their lap. They had no plans to take Aaron Rodgers. It just got to the 24th pick, and they're like, well, geez. I mean, he's sitting there. And also, Aaron Rodgers the people thought he might go in the top 5. He might be the number 1 pick. Jordan Love was never going to be in the top 5 or the number 1 pick. The only reason Green Bay had to make that move to try to get him right there because they were afraid he wasn't going to be available in the 2nd round. So I think the whole thing is ludicrous. I think that the press conferences, Aaron Rodgers made the Green Bay, in my opinion, Aaron Rodgers made the Green Bay Packers look terrible in the press conferences because he was just very calm, very honest, very open. Hey, we had this issue. They tried to give me a contract extension. I didn't want it. It wasn't about the money. I just want to have a say. I want to be more involved in what goes on here. And it seems to me Green Bay has kind of capitulated a little bit. Maybe not as much.
Yeah, they traded for Randall Cobb when they didn't want to sign him a couple of years ago because he's got an injury history. So,
right. So, but I think you know, the idea that, oh, they've made up and everything's, they'll work it out is a bit of nonsense. And the idea that, oh, well, he's going to play 1 year and then he's getting out of there is kind of nonsense. That's, we don't know any of that. I think honestly, depending on it, to me, it depends on how this year goes. Like,
I mean,
if
yeah, they're still got a really good team if they get to,
if they
what if you get
win
to the
this,
Super Bowl
you're
this
telling
year?
me if they win the Super Bowl with this team, he's gonna be like, "Nah, get me out of here. I got to be traded."
Yeah, no,
Nonsense,
I don't
ridiculous.
buy that. Yeah,
So this idea that, oh well, it's last dance, blah blah blah. We'll see. We'll see. He did get him to.
yeah. For those of you who think the NFL is like the NBA, no, the team holds like an extraordinary amount of power over the players when they have
But
you
they
under
did,
contract.
they did release that third year of the contract, so
Yeah,
he can get out of it. He can get out of it for sure in 2 years. We'll see if they let him out of it in 1 year. But I think this is, it's completely insane to me. If I was a team, I would never trade a guy like Aaron Rodgers. Like that is, it's absolute insanity. You never get fair value. There's only especially in the NFL, there's only a handful of quarterbacks like this.
yeah,
So no, I think it's a complete. Most of this is a media creation. Yes, Aaron Rodgers was unhappy with some things going on in Green Bay. Yes, that's true. But the
yeah. I
extent,
mean, Brady was unhappy with things in New England, and he stayed
right?
there for a while until he finally left. I mean,
So
so
yeah, and I was thinking about this earlier. Why couldn't New England figure something out with Brady? Like, why didn't they? Like, it makes no sense to me. They didn't. Not only did they let him go, they didn't even get anything for him. Like,
yeah,
it shines a light. Like Green Bay, okay, they moved a little bit, and it's just like, all right, so he's going to play this season, and we'll see how it goes. How did New England allow that to happen? I mean, Green Bay, who is literally, they are the most, we stick to our system. This is what we do. We don't change for anybody. And even they've adapted.
yeah. I mean, well, I mean, can you? I don't know. Can you fault? Can you fault him for? I mean, Brady's played for 20 years. I mean, can you fault him for moving? I mean, I don't know. Because people are like, oh, well, I guess they're just assuming he's going to be really good this year, which maybe he will be. But I mean, I just kind of feel like Brady's going to reach a point where he just kind of falls off a cliff, like production wise.
45, 46. I mean, when is this cliff going to happen? Because it's sure taken a long time.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I mean, well, how was it all the Patriots, or was it Brady just kind of like, all right, you know what? I've been here a while. I've won a bunch of championships. I just want to go somewhere else.
I
I
think
mean,
once they didn't agree to sign him, give him a new contract, that
okay,
ship
yeah,
sailed. Yeah, as soon as they now, and what I don't understand why the Patriots didn't. You know what? So what? Give him a new contract, and then you can just trade him. You can actually get something for the fact that he's leaving. I never understood that. You don't think there'd be teams lined up to trade for Tom Brady?
yeah,
Like, now it wouldn't be the whole NFL. I'm not saying that. There would be 4 or 5 teams at least. So yeah,
yeah,
it's very confusing. But we as Dolphin fans, listen, I hope Aaron Rodgers gets really unhappy and says, you know what, get me out of here, and hopefully the Dolphins can trade for him. That's
yeah,
that's where I'm at with it. But anyway, this Aaron Rodgers thing, completely overblown. We made a story out of nothing. We have nothing to talk about. Yes, I know. And Aaron Rodgers even said in his press conference, yes, the media tends to make stories where there isn't a whole lot of info. Now, listen, there was some smoke there. I'm not saying that it's
yeah,
completely ridiculous, but the idea that this was thrown at us like, oh, he's going to retire, or oh, he wants the GM fired, or oh, he's
Well, you need content. You got to fill up time. So that's how you fill it up.
bottom line
In
is
an off season.
he showed up for training camp exactly like we all knew he would. Okay, and
Yeah,
Green Bay did a good thing. They worked out. They made the contract better. I mean, they helped themselves too. Let's not be. They didn't just help Aaron
yeah,
Rodgers here. They helped themselves with their salary cap, and if they really want to, trade him, they're in an advantageous position to do so. So, um, yeah, yeah. So that's my take. We'll see how this goes.
yeah.
Now, I just want to prepare everybody. Every week is going to be the story. Anytime the Packers lose, well, is this it? well, is this the end? You know, and he's going to have to
Yeah.
answer questions immediately after the season. You know, so we'll see how this goes, but you know, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. And then we got the whole Deshaun Watson thing.
Yep. Oh, that's a whole. We need a whole
I
other
don't even,
podcast. For that.
you know, the Texans are like, oh, they want to trade him. I'm just like, yeah, I don't know who the hell's going to trade for him now. Like,
Yeah, that is a mess.
I mean, if you trade for him, you get him on your team, and then some court decision comes down that's like, well, you can't play right now, or
It's
he gets
funny.
suspended.
It's really funny though. They weren't taking offers. No, we're not trading him. No way. No, they're taking offers now.
Yeah, and I just don't see who's the hell's going to make that. Like, who's going to make that move right now? Like, I just, you know. But
All right.
but by the way, don't like. Last thing I'll say, but don't be like, don't think that, you know, NFL teams are just really good natured and they'd never, you know, take on a player who's got serious legal issues. Like, trust me, when the legal issues start to clear up, teams will line up to trade for Deshaun Watson. So, you know,
What was the running back from Kansas City, Kareem Hunt? Yeah, he got picked up real quick. So
yeah. So, not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just, you know, that's what happens. So, anyway,
all right,
that's
folks. So thanks for tuning in. Hopefully, you know, we'll work on ourselves and we'll be better people next time. We'll see how it goes. Probably not though.
Yeah, I make no guarantees.
Probably not. But anyway,
Okay.
all right.
All right.